Hi everyone, this is Sister Arshad Snyder. This lecture is a continuation of our study about SQL queries. In this particular lecture, I am going to talk about join statement in a SQL query. So in my previous examples and illustrations, all the data retrieval were involved one table only. But a lot of times, the data that you want to see, excuse me, or the result of your query, the data will have to be retrieved from multiple tables. And to be able to retrieve data from multiple tables, you will use the join statement. So the syntax for it is quite simple. So the first line will always be the select statement, basically to identify what fields or what data element you want the query to return, and the table where you would be retrieving the data from, and the second table where the information currently reside, and then you will specify the field that connects the two tables. So the tables will have to be connected. There has to be a common field for these two tables in order for you to connect them using the join statement. So let's take a look at how we can implement this in SQL Server. Here I have my SQL statement written. So of course the first line is a select statement. I want my data to be retrieved from new employee table. And in my database, you don't have this, but I do. So in my database, I have new employee table, and my columns are basically these are the columns available in my new employee table. So from this table, I want to see employee first name and employee last name. And I will tell the system that I want these two from the new employee table. And I also want another piece of information from another table, which is certification table. I want to see the certification that each of these employees might have. Before we run this query, let's take a look at the content of my, actually I like to, I'm going to write a query. So if I run this query, I will see the content of my table of new employee. So as you can see here, Abby Mills has a certification code, cert code number 2, and whatever that number 2 is, it can be reference to the certification table, and that number 2 is CCID, whatever that CCID stands for, I no idea. And then Amy Matthews does not have any certification. Let's see who else has. So Jane Franks has certification code number 1, and that would be AACB, whatever that means. All right, so now let's go back to our query. So I'm going to delete that query, delete the results, and back to our query. So what we want is that the first name and last name comes from new employee, and certification comes from the certification table. So we want to join these two, and then we're also going to use the on statement to specify what column is the common column for both tables. And in this case, the common columns that are applicable to both tables are the cert ID column. And if you look at the structure of the table, you can see that cert ID is the primary key in the certification table, and that cert ID is used as a foreign key in the new employee table. So when you do your join, you have to make sure that there is a common field that you can join together to connect the two tables. So if I run this query, you will see that everybody who has any kind of certification will appear in my query results. Okay, so this is using the plain join statement. As you can see from the previous illustration, when we use the join query, the join statement in a query, it is going to pull data that match the join. So basically, if data appears on both tables, then the query result will show that. So if you are thinking about this graphically, think about it as like a Venn diagram. The join statement basically look for all data in the new employee table and all data in the certification table, and only data that appears on both tables will be pulled. So anything that overlaps here, meaning that they both appears on both tables, will be shown in the query result. And as you can see in our query, the ones that do not appear in both tables. So for instance, Amy doesn't have it, so Amy will not appear in the result table or in the results. So, but what if we want to show, let's say we want to show everything that is in the new employee table. You want to list all employees regardless of whether or not they have any certification. So you want to tell the query that you want to list all employees and any certification that they might have, and the ones that don't have any certification, you still want them to appear on the list, and of course you would expect to see no certification next to the name. So to do that, we will use left join, and left join basically will do just that. So from a graphical standpoint, you can see that new employee join certification, and we want all new employee names to appear in your query results. All right, so to do that, we are going to go back to our SQL server here, and we are going to say left join. And again, our left join is the new employee first and then certification. So certification is on the right side. Think about it graphically. Like here, so new employee comes first and certification is second. So we want left join, so everything here will be returned in the query results. So if we go back, and I have all these three queries, I'm just going to run them. As you can see, we have a total of right here I have 53 rows in my new employee tables. Okay, so if I go to my query result of this, which is this window right here, it should also show me 53 rows. What it is also showing is that I'm going to make this smaller so you can see that those who do not have any certification will have these null values written right next to the name. So that way here I can see, yeah, we have all these people who have the have some kind of certifications, but there are also some people who don't have it. So and then let's say you want to look at data of the opposite data. You want to see um, all of the data on the second table, which is a certification table, but not necessarily, and whoever has that particular match that particular values in the new employee table. So for that we are going to use right join statement, and again the common fields that we're going to use to connect the two tables is still cert ID as they appear on both tables. So right join basically is just the opposite of the left join. So instead of showing all records in the from the first table, it's going to force the query result to show all certifications that appear in certification table, and then if there is, regardless of whether or not any employees have that kind of certification. So if I go back here and change this from left to right and run my query, I'm going to delete all that, the result from these queries. I'm going to delete that and I'm going to run again so it will be less confusing. So what you have here is that we are forcing the query to pull every single certification that appears in my certification table. So obviously MMSM is one of the certification that was recorded in the certification table, but no one holds that certification. And because we have told the query to pull all certifications regardless of whether or not anybody holds that certification, so apparently there are 3 other certifications that appear or that are contained in the certification table that nobody has earned that specific certification. So now we have 3 additional certifications that appear when we did the right join query.